Why the Bethany Branch Line? I'm glad you asked that question. In this video, I'll tell you the story of the prototype railroad that inspired my fantasy model in N-scale. My plan for the Bethany Branch Line is based on a real 1920s line named the Wellsburg, Bethany, and Washington Railway. In hobbyist jargon, the Bethany Branch Line is classified as prototype freelance, which means made up from bits of real times and places. Like most modelers, I don't have enough space to render the real world in its full expanse, even at scale, so I need to compress things a lot without being obvious. I'll be able to disguise this necessary space compression with artful use of visual tricks, such as forced perspective, scenery blocks, tunnels, and doubling back on the main line to gain more run. I used to live in a small village named Bethany, tucked in the Appalachian Mountains. Bethany is located in West Virginia's northern panhandle, framed by the Pennsylvania state line to the east and the Ohio River to the west. In 1903, Bethany was a long, difficult ride by horse-drawn carriage or wagon from the wider world. But then a trolley company announced its intention to build a railway connecting the village of Bethany to the town of Wellsburg on the Ohio River. The new railway tracks and companion electrical grid would wind through nearly 8 miles of mountainous terrain by tunneling through rock ridges, spanning gorges over spidery trestles, and bridging Buffalo Creek at 4 different places. It was an audacious undertaking that succeeded. Construction took 5 years and cost $200,000. The new trolley line opened the village to the wider world and spurred commerce along its path, serving grain mills, dairy, and coal mines. But alas, as more and more people acquired Model T Fords, the trolley's business dwindled until the trolley line had to shut down in 1926. If you like more prototype facts, check out this entertaining YouTube video by Kevin Morrissey, based on his book entitled The Uphill Climb, Defying the Odds on the Wellsburg, Bethany, and Washington Railway. Link in video description below. The book and video describe locally infamous events, such as when the trolley's brakes failed going downhill in wintertime, and when the local grist mill operator met the trolley late one night in a railway tunnel. I was intrigued by the story of the Bethany trolley and chose to model it on my new N-scale layout. I made up the logo and name, Bethany Branch Line. There was no such railroad, but the Wellsburg, Bethany, and Washington Railway of 1926 was my inspiration. Choosing this era to model is almost as audacious as the original trolley construction. There's not many off-the-shelf scale trains, structures, and vehicles for modeling 1926, so the Bethany Branch Line will require a lot of scratch building, kit bashing, and 3D printing. But I guess that's why I'm intrigued to try. If I succeed, I'll wind up with something unique, like the Bethany trolley itself. Since I was a kid, I've been fascinated with the bygone era of steam locomotives. They are why I want to build a model railroad. I have zero interest in modern era diesels, stacked containers, and graffiti everywhere. I got my attitude from idolizing John Allen's famous Gory and Defeated HO Model Railroad, which was featured in Model Railroader magazines when I was young. Allen never allowed diesels on his layout. Neither will I. But an occasional gas electric might be okay. Steam locomotives are very romantic, with their big spinning wheels, moving gears, noises, steam, and smoke. Digital control can produce the sounds on my N-scale layout, but smoke and steam are going to be a problem. The small N-scale locomotives don't have enough room inside to install smoke generators. We'll see what I can come up with. Bring on the smoke. So, now let's take a look at the geography of Bethany Branch Line. There's lots of hills and mountains in West Virginia, which means plenty of track inclines, bridges, and tunnels for my model railroad. Travel routes naturally follow the valleys and waterways. The West Virginia Panhandle's dominant waterway is the Ohio River. Major tributaries of the Ohio create natural ports for riverboat traffic. Settlements took hold at these natural ports. To the north, the main tributary is Buffalo Creek, which cuts a meandering swath from the inland village of Bethany to the river port of Wellsburg. The Bethany Trolley generally follows the creek. In the south, the main tributary of the Ohio River is Wheeling Creek, which gave its name to the town that grew up around its port. Wheeling is at the nexus of three important transportation networks in 1926. The first important network is, of course, the Ohio River itself. Riverboats haul goods and passengers upriver to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and downriver to Parkersburg, West Virginia, and Cincinnati, Ohio. Ohio flatboats can carry immense loads, but in 1926 the river level is unpredictable and subject to flooding and drought. The second major transportation network going through Wheeling and across the Ohio River is the all-important National Road, the first overland route connecting the eastern seaboard to the west. Horse-drawn wagons traveling the National Road needed a ferry to cross the Ohio. That is, until the Wheeling Suspension Bridge opened in 1851. The bridge was a technological marvel, the largest suspension bridge in the world at the time. The bridge's quick and easy river crossing gave Wheeling a huge trade advantage. The city's third major transportation network is the railroad. In 1926, Wheeling was a terminus for the Baltimore and Ohio Railroad, one of the oldest railway lines in the United States. B&O railway construction began in Maryland in 1828. By 1852, the B&O line crossed Virginia all the way to the Ohio River ports of Parkersburg and Wheeling. In 1863, these towns were included in the new state of West Virginia. The B&O helped Wheeling's population and commerce to grow rapidly in the latter 1800s. Wheeling's river port and suspension bridge offered strategic connections for B&O's freight and passenger businesses. With the railroad came heavy industry, coal, steel, glass, and machine manufacturing. For a time, Wheeling, West Virginia was the state's capital city. By 1900, it was a leading industrial and transportation center, the richest city per capita in America. My BBL design includes Wheeling City, the suspension bridge, river port, industry, mining, freight, passenger, and locomotive facilities. Naturally, all these elements must be compressed to fit in my layout. Wheeling in 1926 features several distinctive landmarks and structures that I like to model on the BBL. First and foremost is the suspension bridge. However, I don't have enough room to build a model of the bridge, so I'll feature it prominently in the scenic backdrop painting behind my model of Wheeling. Other right-of-way structures of the Wheeling prototype that I'll need to model are numerous tunnels and bridges that the railroad built to negotiate the mountain ridges. A big star in my Wheeling cast of characters will be the B&O's fine brick and stone passenger station, constructed 1907 to 1908. The company wanted an edifice in Wheeling that would symbolize its power and prestige. This drawing shows the Main Street entrance to the terminal with the station platforms behind. This photo shows the track side of Wheeling Passenger Station with passenger platforms and freight sidings, which are elevated above street level. My track plan also has a split-level arrangement at Wheeling Station, but with tracks on the lower level instead. I'll have to compress the station buildings and platforms to fit them into my layout. The history of Wheeling is peppered with numerous industries that will add spice to my model railroad, including Marsh Wheeling, the oldest cigar manufacturing company in the United States, founded by Mifflin Marsh in 1840. The Wheeling Stogie's lighted sign remains a famous Wheeling landmark. Wheeling also is home to Block Brothers Tobacco Company, best known for mail pouch chewing tobacco. Wheeling cigar manufacturers are supplied by the Christian Steinmetz Company, the state's largest maker of paper boxes. LaBelle Iron Works manufactures cut nails, very popular in 1926. Wheeling became known as the nail capital of the world. Wheeling had several ironworks and steel mills. I plan to model a scaled-down version of a steel mill near my Wheeling city, with more mill structures suggested in the painted backdrop behind. The B&O terminal in Wheeling has full steam locomotive servicing facilities with turntable and roundhouse, as will the Bethany Branch Line. Wheeling City of 1926 is home to numerous important structures that I want to model. The Custom House originally levied taxes on goods shipped out of the Port of Wheeling, and later was designated West Virginia's Independence Hall. In 1988, the building became a U.S. national landmark. As a major commercial power, the city boasts numerous banks, hotels, and vendors. The Capitol Theater hosted the Jamboree USA country music variety show heard nationwide for decades on WWVA AM radio. Even though it was built 2 years after my target date, I claim modeler's license to include the Capitol in my rendering of Wheeling. Now let's take a look at the next stop on the Bethany Branch Line. I plan for the BBL main line to depart Wheeling and run north along the Ohio River to Beech Bottom, a river port where steam locomotives can take on coal, sand, and water. In 1926, Beech Bottom is wholly owned by a local steel company, which built the entire town for its workers, complete with houses, post office, general store, churches, and a streetcar line to transport workers to their jobs. Near Beech Bottom is Windsor Coal Company's tipple, where trains deliver empty coal hoppers and pick up full ones, and coal is loaded into barges for river transport to power companies and steel mills. Founded in 1899, Windsor is among the oldest continuously operating mines in West Virginia. The bituminous coal comes from Windsor's underground mine at Schoolhouse Hollow, a few miles to the east of the river. The mine sends out its coal on conveyors that lead all the way to the tipple outside Beech Bottom. Trains heading north on the BBL main line continue along the river to the Brooke County capital seat of Wellsburg at the mouth of Buffalo Creek. In the early 1800s, Wellsburg was a bustling center of commerce, with a major wharf, warehouses, glassmakers, potteries, meat packers, and cotton mills. But by 1926, the industry had moved downriver to Wheeling, leaving Wellsburg mostly residential and retail. Because of this transformation, Wellsburg is the only town on this side of the river that has vintage homes built right up to the river's edge. The Wellsburg metropolis is known for several classic architectural gems that I hope to model on the BBL. Local legend claims that the original Grimes golden apple tree was sprouted from seed planted near Wellsburg by John Chapman, nicknamed Johnny Appleseed. The tree produced fruit for more than 100 years before it blew down in a 1905 storm. A monument is all that's left. But as if by magic, I'll bring Grimes golden apple trees back to life on my layout. In 1926, one rivercraft docks hourly at the Wellsburg Wharf, a steam-propelled ferry that carries travelers and vehicles across the river to the Ohio town of Brilliant. With no nearby bridges spanning the river, the Wellsburg ferry is popular with locals and will continue operations until the mid-1960s. I hope to model the ferry and wharf along with the nearby terminus of the trolley line to Bethany. Locals nickname the trolley the Interurban and Tunerville Trolley, and tout the Interurban ferry line as the easiest way to get from Pennsylvania to Ohio. The Interurban Trolley's mountain route passes several unique landmarks that I want to model on the BBL. The trolley departs from Bethany Village, where it takes on student and faculty passengers of venerable Bethany College, winds over a harrowing trestle nicknamed the Narrows, overlooks LaBelle Farm in the valley below, snakes through 2 tunnels, plummets down Buchanan's Hill, spans several loops of Buffalo Creek, strolls past Waugh's gristmill and dam, drops off miners at McKinleyville, deposits empty milk cans at Marsh Brothers Dairy, and rolls into the Pennsylvania Railroad station at 8th and Yankee Streets in Wellsburg. This plan for my Bethany Branch Line model railroad, Wheeling, to Beech Bottom, to Wellsburg, with trolley service to Bethany, is simple in design, but offers many options for freight and passenger rail traffic. In addition, there's more trains from 3 off-layout railroads. The Pennsylvania Railroad linked to the BBL at Wellsburg in the north, and the Baltimore and Ohio and Western Maryland railroads connected to Wheeling in the south. We have ourselves a railroad with lots of operating potential. My Bethany Branch Line model railroad offers a special service that the prototype railroads couldn't. A magic mainline return loop running directly from Wellsburg to Wheeling. The magic loop enables continuous running when I'm not in the mood for point-to-point operations. I can have it both ways on the BBL, point-to-point or continuous run. Speaking of non-prototypical features of my model railroad, my train elevator is front and center, or should I say back and center, along the back wall of the train room. The design and construction of my train elevator is well documented on my YouTube channel. It connects the lower parade level of my layout with the upper scenic level. That wraps up this glimpse of the West Virginia geography and history that inspired my design for the Bethany Branch Line and N-Scale, circa 1926. For more information, check out the links in the video description below, and leave your comments and suggestions. Stay tuned for my next video in which I show the track plans for the parade and scenic levels. As always, thanks for watching.